So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am so grateful to have this panelist with us today on World Maternal Mental Health Day. Each of these women has their own story and their own purpose for advocacy of mental health and supporting women and raising women. So, I am so honored to have them here. I'd like to introduce each of our panelists and have them just share a little bit about themselves and how they kind of got into, this evolving conversation. So, Gabriella, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me, Jennifer, and thank you for organizing this event. It's a very important day, and it's a very important topic, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Gabriella Ignacz, and I'm a wellbeing professional, and my particular focus is motherhood and happiness and workplace wellbeing as well. And I have a website called Wellbeing for Mothers, and a podcast about well-being, and I have written a book about the postpartum, and I am in the process of turning that book into an online course. So that's the project I'm working on right now.
That's great. That's great to hear it. And you're coming to us from Austria, is that correct?
Austria at the moment, yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Gabriella. And next we have Ilona.
Hi. Hi, I'm really happy to be here too today. It is a really important day. My name is Ilona Bannister. I am a writer. I'm a New Yorker, but I live in London. I've lived here for 13 years with my husband and my children. My first book's called When I Ran Away, which is here. And it's a book about a mother who has postpartum depression and who's dealing with grief and loss and all the complexities that come with the shift into motherhood, the shift to motherhood in your identity, and all of the complicated feelings that come with that. I became a writer. I used to be a lawyer, but I became a writer after the birth of my second child. It was a traumatic birth, and I realized that I would not be able to return to my career in the same way that I had before. And so writing became a way for me to explore that. So motherhood completely shifted my career, but it also helped me deal with the difficulties and talk about difficulties that I think a day like this is for.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Your book is fantastic, and we just really appreciate you being here. And Leslie, you're coming to us from, and Ilona, you're coming to us from London. And Leslie, you are coming from us from Maui. So tell us a little bit about your adventure or journey.
Well, good morning from Maui, Hawaii. My name is Leslie Garo, and I am the owner and founder of an organization called Malama Yo Mama. And I just want to say thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me. And I'm so excited to see all of these ladies in action. I actually talk about motherhood and community in so many different ways. I explained to Jennifer yesterday, but I actually had my daughter at 19 with very little support, totally change of plans with my college and career goals. And then I actually worked at our community clinic here on the island, and we started a group prenatal program. And so seeing the support and the need of the support from these women were so touching and so important. And until this day, I say, I wish I had a program like that when I was pregnant. I don't know how I navigated through such a difficult time, a difficult transition without any support. And then I became the owner and founder of Malama Yo Mama, and it actually is just an organization that brings all women together. So just that support, again, that's my focus on bringing everyone together. You know, we hear little friendship circles, coworkers vent about the same things, and it's like, why not bring us all together and just help us uplift one another and just unite one another and get through all of these difficult times together.
I think that's so. Thank you very much, Leslie, for joining us and the work that you're doing as well with your moms. and women who are around you. I think you started or kind of like segue into something really important, which is the sense of community for mothers. And I think it's something I've individually spoken to you about, all of us, and then just collectively, how we've seen that play out for moms and even for our generation of women. So so my first question to kind of like to go from is how do you see motherhood is perceived in modern motherhood? How do we see it play out? Anybody? I would say, 10 years ago when I started as being a mom, it was, it was the kind of the peak or initial start of social media. So it was very much perfection and clean and everything else. Whereas I was thinking about different posts that I was doing earlier today that I would never have done 10 years ago, like never. I feel like people, if I would have done that, people would have been like, are you okay? Like, I don't want to follow Jennifer. She's really depressing. Or, there would be some sort of stigma surrounding that. So how do you feel like we're valuing moms today, or what's the perception of motherhood?
Yeah, I'll go since I kind of just touched base on that. And yes, I became a mom 8 years ago and I was 19 at the time. And so social media was everything. And it was very, back then, I was really confused because it seemed like being a young mom or just a mom in general was a luxury. They made it seem like a luxurious thing, like all the mommy and mini outfits. And, it became that kind of thing where I'm like, is this really what motherhood's about? Because I'm on the other side of the screen, breastfeeding and running around and like, I don't know when the last time I took a nap or shower was, and I just didn't quite understand it at the time. And so I didn't give into it, but seeing it and I saw the pattern about, like the cute side of being a mother, right? The fun side. And now, yes, fast forward, like I mentioned, for my Malama Yo Mama organization, we create events to bring women together. And now everyone comes and they're like, they're themselves when they come to these events, and everyone's openly speaking about, oh, this is the first time in a long time that I've been alone, that I fixed myself up. And we're all able to openly and freely speak about, us coming out of that mom shell, coming out of the house and leaving the kids at home guilt-free. So I like that. I like the transition of us finally seeing that we are still the women behind being moms.
And I think that's so important, and that's really lovely to hear about. And it's so important that you do that. And we need more of that, because I think part of what's hard about modern motherhood is the isolation. It can be a very, very isolating experience. And from the outside, it can look like life is really busy and full of people, right? Because you're around people all the time because of school and activities and whatever it might be. But it's very rare that people stop and actually ask a mother, how are you actually doing? Are you okay? That, the mother's needs often get subsumed by everything that the family needs, and the family's life and that family chaos exists on top. And underneath that, quite often there's a mother who feels very alone. Mm-hmm. So I think those kinds of opportunities for community and for reaching out it's just so important. And I think especially for any new moms who were coming out of the pandemic as we are now, I can't even imagine what the experience must have been like. Because I know I felt very isolated, and that was just in normal circumstances. To really have that kind of physical isolation from people when you're a new mother, I really worry about those moms. So when I hear about programs like that, I just think it's so vital, and it's so important to get women to reach out to be a part of that, because isolation hurts. Yeah.
I think my biggest problem with the way mothers and motherhood is perceived in modern society is that it is not valued. And this was what made me choose this direction and this is why I started researching motherhood. I was a master's student when I became pregnant, And so I was in that mindset of doing research and everything. And I just couldn't understand that. To me, when my son was born, it was the most precious thing in the world and the most valuable job that I could possibly be doing, being a mom. And yet from the external world, I was constantly getting, oh, you're just a mom now. Oh, it's not that important. And I think we have this perception, if somebody is not working and earning money, that they just less valuable members of society. And I really take an issue with that. And I would really love to see this change in a way that, for example, social media has changed in the past 10 years, that now we are speaking more openly about problems, whereas 10 years ago on Instagram, all you could see was picture perfect houses. And for sure, my house didn't look like that. And I'm just hoping that the value of the work that mothers do, the value of motherhood will be appreciated a little bit more. And the past 2 years and the pandemic, I think, shone a light on the situation of mothers. And I think that gives us hope that there could be a change for the better.
Yeah, I wonder, we talk a lot about like the value of a mother. And I was just thinking about that earlier this week too. Oh, you're just a mother. And there's so much more, but being a mother for someone who's career oriented, and this is something Leslie and I were talking about, it's like it can be very conflicting, because you and Ilona and Gabriella, we've all had this, Lexi, we've all had this conflict where we want to move forward with our lives, but we have to be a mother first, and so there's really no good solution to how do we, there's no good solution within, I don't think, our society in general on how to bridge those two gaps for us. If you're working, then you're not with your kids. If you're with your kids, then you're not working. And when you're out in the workforce, you're not doing as much as you could, and you're not getting as much as, offering as much as, you'd like to, or you want to. I think my biggest pet peeve I've had, on all my kiddos, and the biggest pet peeve that I have with anybody after I have my babies is them assuming that I'm not going to want to work, or them assuming that I'm too busy, which I am. I'm very busy. I'm not good at sitting still, but that's not for them to assume. That's for me to, and my choice to make that decision if I want to participate or not. No one should assume that just because I'm a mom, it means that I can't perform in a way that could excel. So that has, happened recently. It's pretty frustrating, so anyways, the value that we have, where we say that moms and babies, we value moms and babies, but at the end of, on the back end of that, how do we really support them? So, and it's really just starting with each other on how we do that, and raising up each other, which is similar to Leslie's program. And kind of on that, conversation, we talk about the invisible workload of a mom as well. And that's come up a lot recently within the past few years. So what is that, maybe personally, I'm curious what the invisible workload might feel like for yourselves individually. What does that look like for you? And I can start real quick. Because we just moved. I have a new son, and I think my husband and I are constantly balancing who's going to take care of the baby. But I have two older kiddos who are in school. So we've got field trips and lunches and after school and stuff like that. So, and not to say I have a wonderful partner and husband, but I think that those pieces that we carry silently that can kind of weigh us down, what might that look like for you to help normalize, motherhood for people who might be watching?
Well, I mean, if you want to know how I feel about it, like I wrote a whole book about it. A whole character where she talked all about the invisible emotional workload and that frustration. I mean, for me, my kids are 11 and 9, so they're a bit older. That comes with other things. It actually comes with a lot of intensity as they get older, because the workload then starts to include not just the physical labor of being a mom and not just running the house and remembering everything for everyone, but also the, taking care of the children emotionally, because their emotions become a lot more complex. And I find what happens with me, I made this career shift, right? So that I could work from home, I could be self-employed, so that I could be here for my kids. And what often happens is that my work, because there is so much involved in the day-to-day of taking care of the house and taking care of the kids and thinking for everyone, my work gets pushed to the side. Even my work that I've tried so hard to mold around family life and trying to balance it, it gets pushed to the side a lot. And that's really frustrating. And I struggle with that. I struggle with kind of making the boundary of this is, particularly because I do creative work. It's not like I'm answering to a boss or that I have loads of Zoom meetings to go to. It's not that kind of structure. So I struggle with the boundary between my family and my work life. And I think for a lot of women that it morphs, the two things morph into each other, even when you try to separate them out. You're always carrying the family, even when you're working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I mean, I'm actually still, I have a full-time job as a community health worker. I'm a full-time student trying to get my bachelor's in my degree. Full-time mom, of course, because I have an 8-year-old, and then still tending to myself and my business and the community. So it's really tough. I mean, my best friend was visiting recently, and I kind of took her for a ride with me, like in my day-to-day routines. And she was like, "You really love to drive, huh?" And I said, "No, I don't love it, but it's needed." It just, a lot of things you don't realize. Like, I feel like we're in autopilot mode where it's like you wake up, you do the same routine here and there, and it's, we have our supportive partners. Well, I do, and it's great, but you can definitely tell the difference in the to-do lists or the task lists, and like filling in the holes and making sure everything's, and that one saying where it's like you had one job, and sometimes dad can't fulfill that, while mom's to-do list is like 20 items and we're going, it's like making sure, yes, like what Ilona said, doing your job and still being able to pursue what you want to do, but still taking care and tending to your family. And yes, I have an 8-year-old girl, and so she watches everything I do, especially with this Malama Yo Mama and what I'm doing. And Mom, where are you going? What meeting is this for? And she's really intrigued by it. She's even asked me once, Mom, if something happens to you, do I have to take over the Malama Yo Mama business? And I'm like, one, don't worry about me, like, something happening to me. But two, yes, she understands that there's a legacy that I will leave behind, and how important it is to me. So I've tried my best to mesh the two, and I've shared with Jennifer a lot of my things I do. It's sounds crazy because it is, with school, work, my business, motherhood, but a lot of them overlap, and I'm so passionate and I love doing all of them. So it helps that way. But yes, we have a million things to do, and a lot of people don't see it because we carry it well. We go from waking up and getting to bed at night, everyone's fed, we have a house, and we got safely to our destinations. That's really like the main priorities, and it's like, how do we do that? And my biggest thing is even finances, as a young mom, still trying to build her career, her business, it's been really tough. And a lot of the times I remember I was raised by a young single mom as well. She also had me at 19. And I remember us going out and sometimes seeing her on this like website, and I never understood what it was because I was younger. And now here I am making sure that, finances are in check before going on a trip or before going to a big event. And now I realize that online site is online banking because you want to make sure. So it's like, even that, I think people don't talk about is us making sure all the bills are paid, right? Because without the bills being paid, our necessities are gone. Our roofs over our head, car payments to make sure we have transportation, food in the refrigerator. And so I think people overlook those things because it sounds like, oh yeah, it's, we're supposed to have it and it's a guarantee or an automatic. but even that part is really pressuring and stressful, I think, for women. So most times it's usually the women making sure everything's in line. So yeah, it's really difficult, but we make do, right? And that's why we need the support for one another, because I see lots of head nodding. That means we can all relate to each other.
Yes.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. And there is so much work that comes with keeping a family together. And I actually started calling it family management instead of just workload, because it somehow feels more tangible, even though it's intangible. But even I can understand it better, that the noticing of what needs to be done, not just the actual doing, but the noticing and the remembering and the keeping in mind. So family management is a term that I would like to see more often, because also for professional mothers, it's in a way, you are a manager. No matter what you do in your professional life, once you have a family, you are a manager, whether you like it or not. This is, this is what it is. And perhaps it would help others understand how much work is involved with having a child and having a family, if we called it that. But the other side of the invisible work, the emotional side that Ilona mentioned, that comes with older children, but even with the younger ones, that there is so much a mother does, teaching the children about values of the particular culture, how to fit into society, what is right and what is wrong. It's so much more than just feeding children and washing the clothes and keeping them clean and alive. I mean, that's the basic, yeah. Hopefully we can all manage to do that, but there is so much more that mothers and parents do, because fathers are very much in this picture as well, and that is not acknowledged. And I think this is part of because it's invisible. You cannot see how a mother teaches unconditional love. You cannot see how a mother teaches how to relate to another person, how to be a human being. But this is a very tiring work. It's very intense. You're using your brain, you're using your mind, your heart, your everything. And I would like to see this acknowledged more.
Yeah, I love what Gabriella said. Sorry if I can just like touch base on that, because I think, and connecting what we all said, that is really where I think moms really tend to have breakdowns. It's not only the pressure of the basics, right, which I mentioned, but it's also the pressure of, like what the two mentioned, values and raising our children to be awesome people in society, or in this world, I should say. And it's really tough. I find myself going back and forth every day, making sure that I say the right things. If she asks a question, because our kids just get more curious as they get older, making sure that I'm teaching her the right things. And how do I make sure that I teach her these things? She goes in the world and she sees the opposite, so that pressure of being a parent, yes, no one sees that. And I think between that plus everything we balance, it can really take a toll on moms. And, that's where we question our worth, our value, if we're appreciated. And then that's where all of the emotion can definitely come from.
All of that stress too, even, even when you're in just survival mode, practically, you're still worrying about, motherhood is always that undercurrent of our lives. Once we become a mother, whether, we're with our children, whether we're not with our children, it is forever. And that can be difficult in itself. I think we could probably talk for hours on that emotional space. So one of the things that I also want to touch on too, and I love honestly how each of us has our own professional experience, but we're drilling down to our own motherhood experience, which is a really beautiful thing about this conversation, just because that's a part of, who we are. So how, had a few conversations with Gabriella about this as well, how we can support our moms. We can build value and community, but how do you think we can share our stories, which is why I feel like When I Ran Away is such a valuable novel to have for any mother who's experienced postpartum, who has knows someone who has, and then just from Gabriella talking to different professionals and understanding from all over the world what is going on in mental health, what's happening with mothers. So we talk about this like proactive versus a reactive approach to mental health. What are some maybe findings or thoughts that you might have on how can we support our moms before they get to this, burnout point? And we've all probably been to our burnout point. So how can we, what's our own experience there?
I think it's very important to switch from the reactive to the proactive approach, as you say. And a very simple one would be to raise awareness and educate women what motherhood is like in reality, because we're prepared for birth, and the antenatal education is doing a great job there, but not so much for the postpartum, not so much for the upheaval, which inevitably happens, the shock, the chaos that is absolutely normal. But if women don't know that this is to be expected, especially if they were career women who very much in control, they know what they're doing, and they find themselves in this strange new country, and they're completely thrown. And often just to know that this is normal and it will pass, it will be enough to prevent them from spiraling. This is what keeps coming up. Just knowing that it's like with teenagers, we know that it's a major upheaval and it lasts for years, and nobody expects a teenager to figure out their lives from one day to the other. And it's the same with parenthood. Your life completely changes, and you will never go back to your pre-parent self. And it comes with the hormonal changes after birth as well, but the identity change, you need to figure out a new kind of relationship with your partner, with your own parents. So many things change, and I think women should be better prepared for this.
Mm-hmm.
And that would definitely help as a proactive approach.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder what the other ladies are thinking.
I think there's one thing I would say to new mothers or any mother who is struggling is there is no shame in that. I think we feel so much shame if it's not going well, or if we feel anger, or if we are struggling, or if we are a mess at home. We try to put on a brave face. We try not to let people see, because we're so afraid of anyone thinking that we're failing at mothering or that we're not doing it right. Someone said an amazing thing to me on Instagram today, that we are not born mothers. We grow with our children. As our children grow, we grow as mothers. And that's, when she said that, a friend of mine, it's just, it really clicked into place. And like Gabriella was saying, we don't know that. You don't know until you become a mother how it's going to affect you, or what the shift is going to be, or how you're going to react to it. And there is no shame around anything that you feel. And one of the most important things that I wrote about was asking for help. New mothers in particular need to know that it is okay to ask for help, that there is no judgment in saying, this feels weird, this feels hard, I'm upset, I'm not myself. I really wish there was no shame or judgment around admitting when we are having a hard time. I think that if there's any message that we could give, I think that's such an important one.
Yep, I agree with both of these ladies, like I have this entire time. And, my mind kind of went all over the place, because I'm thinking, as far as being proactive, it shouldn't be so hard to find people to even get help from or to find that support. And I think along the way, I mean, it should be part of it when someone gets pregnant and we have that prenatal care, there should be some kind of care that is also provided along the way, because you start that transition already pregnant. I remember being pregnant feeling so alone because I had no support. And it was like, I'm supposed to enjoy this moment. It's such a magical thing. And throughout my whole pregnancy, I didn't even take any pictures of myself. I took like maybe one, but I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed, aside from my age and probably my culture and religion and just a whole bunch of things. I felt ashamed, and I didn't get to soak in that special moment of bearing a child. And then after, it was the same thing. It was okay. I felt the pressure to be like the best mom, prove that I'm not this walking statistic, having a child at a young age, failing, all of these things. So if we address it and educate and bring awareness to all of this, then us as mothers or women should not even have to have these thoughts. It should be an open book, and everyone should, oh, you're pregnant, like, let me know if you need any resources. Here's a book written by Ilona. Whatever it is we need. And maybe we're all not writers and publishers like her, podcasts, speakers, but if we can just reach out, all it takes is one person to create that domino effect. And we start, and I bring up women because it should start with women. Us alone should be a community itself, and then from there, our other halves are like, who is this lady? Who is this strong, powerful lady? Who's supporting her? And then they'll get the picture, and it just becomes this normalized thing where it's okay. Like what Ilona said, it's okay to struggle and it's okay to have hardships. What we don't want is anyone feeling alone during those times. And that's exactly why I made my organization. I think it's one of those I'm trying my best to make it a solution to burnout. But again, we don't want to wait till we feel that burnout. We want the support, education, and awareness throughout the process. So when it does happen, we know how to cope with it, or we know how to prevent so many burnouts.
And we're also, as moms, we kind of touched on this, but we're modeling this for our kids. So this isn't something that we're going to be solving overnight or anything, but we have mostly boys here. Leslie, I know you have a little girl. So we're trying to teach, I'm trying to teach my boys, what being a mom really looks like, what they should expect from a partner, how they should be treating a partner, how they can kind of like, jump in, but maybe it doesn't all the way soak into a little 8-year-old brain, but he'll remember that, and how we treat other mothers. There's a new mom in the neighborhood that I want to make sure that she's taken care of, and just bringing that sense of community and neighboring back, because I almost shared something about Ilona, but the concept of what we're struggling with quietly, and how we can kind of break down those walls. I think about it a lot too. If we really knew how families were struggling, like the real nitty gritty of how families are struggling, there isn't anything that we wouldn't do for our neighbors. And for some reason, we continue to like turn a blind eye to it, or not acknowledge it, or not like bring it up to the surface, because it is hard to digest. But we really, we can be proactive without, I guess we want to be disruptors, but we can be proactive in a positive light in our communities, and just, modeling for our own children. So, well, just kind of in closing, I so appreciate everybody's time here. I would love to talk to you all more. And I can't thank you enough for sharing and being a part of this, but how do you think, I'm going to try and think of a on-the-spot question for you. But what is your biggest takeaway from your own motherhood experience? Not so much what would you tell a mom, but what is something that you kind of like treasure about being a mother? And I'll share while you guys think about that. I don't want to, because I put you on the spot. So one of the things that I just thought of recently, one of my oldest son or middle 8-year-old got first communion, and I just thought it was such a really beautiful thing to watch your children grow in faith, or watch your children grow as good as human beings, to watch them just to watch them grow and take these little steps. And my son's 11. We still have a lot of milestones to go through. But gosh, what a beautiful thing it is to just watch them develop past, that first year. So I was really touched by that whole moment more than I thought I would be.
I'll go next. So I think just in general, like you said, watching our children grow, but when we talked about the values and the compassion, and between my partner and I, we always say this, and we've really tried to instill it in her. It's just being kind and compassionate can go a long way. And so every day we remind her, on our way to school, it's have a great day, be safe, be kind. And we've made that a routine. And, going to bed, every time we ask her about stories. And it's just really nice to know that if it's one thing that I've done right as a mother, and as parents, we hope that it's for her to be the most kind person in this world and to take that with her, no matter where life leads her. So it's just that knowing that we've talked about the struggles of how do we instill these values, how do we do this, but it's been the most rewarding thing when you see that child taking a part of what you're teaching them, and really showing you that your hard work as a parent's kind of paying off. It's just those silent silent success moments, I guess. And no one sees it because it's just in a random conversation, or, how's your day? And she brings it up, or even a drawing. She won an art contest recently, and it was, if you could change the world, or if I could change the world, I would change the world by. And she drew a homeless shelter and handing out food to homeless people. And it's just amazing seeing that,
Big part.
I have, so I've got 2 boys. My boys both also have ADHD and dyslexia. So we have been on a sometimes stressful and long journey of trying to help them with those difficulties. But it has been the most rewarding, most interesting, most fascinating journey to be on. They have taught me so much about looking at the world through a different lens, because they really do see things totally differently to how I do. They learn things differently. They take things in differently. And as frustrating as it has been sometimes for them and for me as their mom trying to help them with school and fitting into school and making it work for them, I am just so thrilled to see the creativity in them, the uniqueness in them, the vision that they have of the world. It is just every day, it is fascinating to me. So as sometimes it's difficult, but a lot of the time I just feel like, wow, these are 2 really special kids. They really do see something that I don't, and they show it to me every day. So I feel very, very fortunate for that.
Lovely listening to your examples, ladies. For me, I think that what I cherish most about motherhood is the love, the unconditional love that no matter what I do, no matter how bad a day I have, and I do have bad days sometimes, my son just loves me as I am, and I love him as he is. And I think this is the only kind of relationship, I think, between parent and child that is unconditional, and this will never change. That there's no amount of wrong that they can do to change this. I think this for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys sharing from your backgrounds and from your careers and your experiences. And I apologize for the technical difficulties to make this happen, but we'll still get the message and the conversation out there. And just thank you so much for what you're doing, and keep up the good fight, because I think we're making some progress for future moms, so, and women.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.